So there will be a lot of people who are rightly trying to figure out what's the best documentary you can watch about Brian Wilson or the Beach Boys or something in
Yeah.
honor of the greatest of American pop songwriters' recent death. One I would recommend is one that you're not going to hear much about. It's the one that moves me the most, probably, of all of them. And I'm a very big Beach Boys fan and Brian Wilson fan. It's called Beautiful Dreamer, Brian Wilson and the Story of Smile. Most people, it came out 20 years ago. And it's a story about a lost record. Famously, it's
Hmm.
the most famous lost record in the history of pop music after the Beach Boys had done Pet Sounds, which is considered to be one of the best records ever made, and then follow that up with a single Good Vibrations, which was a smash hit that cost $500,000 to make in 1966. So adjusted for inflation, that's $11 billion. And so
Oh
he
my
was
God.
all of his brains were going like this, but then the Pet Sounds wasn't as popular as it was going to be, but he was on top of the world artistically while his brain was kind of caving in. And then as he's trying to translate his really complex visions about how to create a teenage symphony to God, he snaps like a twig. And in the
Yeah.
process of recording Smile, which is this incredibly ambitious, all songs kind of cross hatching to one another, just like completely impossible to understand lyrics by Van Dyke Parks. That's maybe about like the resettling of the American West or I don't know what. And in the middle of doing this, he spends all the money, takes all the drugs, has all the breakdowns, and he ends up as a fat, sad man in a sandbox. And there's nothing to, and everyone has heard snippets of Smile at the time, and everyone's like waiting. And by everyone, I mean like Paul McCartney is waiting, and Bob Dylan is waiting, and Mick Jagger and Keith Richards are waiting. Like, what is this guy going to do next? And they would only occasionally get a snippet of a song or two. Heroes and Villains comes out as a single, which is an insane single, an insane amount of kind of harmony stack. It doesn't make sense. It's crazy. A song called Cabanescence sneaks out eventually, some years later. Surfs Up appears 5 years later. All these are parts of the Smile thing, but Smile becomes this white whale of a record that never gets finished. And so and this is the part of the story that makes me really choke up, is that Brian Wilson, for all intents and purposes, after about 1973, is just he's cashed out, and he did not have a particularly good 1967 to 1973 to begin with, but he was still contributing songs to the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys were still a vital, if not high-selling act, making really interesting art. But that stops in 73. He kind of disappears. He resurfaces in the 80s under Crazy Psychotherapist, and you've seen the story in the Love and Mercy movie, which is wonderful that everyone should
Is it
watch.
good?
Oh, it's
Oh,
great. It's
it's
wonderful.
wonderful.
I can't
Really,
recommend it highly enough. It's
really.
terrific.
Really?
Oh, it's
Yes.
magnificent. It's
It's
great.
about
It's
it's basically about that period in the 80s and 90s when he'd been under the domineering control of psychotherapist Eugene Landy, and
Mm.
he comes out and does a solo record, and like Eugene Landy gets all the co-writing credits on it, and he's under this incredibly strict control of this guy. And then he's got serious mental illness problems, for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
then a woman kind of like pulls him out of it and pulls him out of the dominions of this guy,
Mm.
and it goes forth in life. But it cuts back and forth between the making, particularly of Pet Sounds, and like the high point of his genius, but also where his brain started cracking up, where he started experiencing hallucinations and all of that. So um, back to the story of the beautiful dreamer Smile thing. So he's basically cashier, doesn't really do much. He has some little solo records or whatever. The LA musicians of exactly my generation and in Silver Lake, where I live, Nancy used to live as well, um, revered Brian Wilson above everyone else. There was a sort of a scene in LA, and this isn't overly dwelled on, but the characters are in the documentary. But I just happen to know this, and I love it. There was a kind of a pop, a baroque indie avant pop rock thing happening in LA in the 90s. John Bryan is a name who does
Oh, John
soundtrack.
Bryan.
He's essential to that. Jellyfish was a band that was a big part of that. Sean Lennon was a young wonderkind. His first record, Into the Sun, is this just, it's a
It's good.
masterpiece.
I love it.
Really, really interesting thing. So all these people, all these musicians, what is the thing that they had in common besides being exactly my age and living in my neighborhood? They all loved Brian Wilson most of all, and they just revered their '60s heroes, including Arthur Lee of Love. And some of these guys, including a band called the Wondermints, which was one of the 3 or 4 best up and coming bands in that scene, doing great stuff. I saw them live; they were wonderful, great harmonies. They just came out and said, "All right, Brian, we got you. We got you. We are going to be, we're going to pull you into, we know that you want to do this. We know that you want to perform and that you want to retrieve Smile, because Smile at that point was presumed to be
Yeah.
lost. There's some individual bits of it um, that again had come out, but like the master track, and no one really knew, but you want to perform it. And so there's a documentary about these guys and Brian and his wife and other people around pulling him out, um, practicing, going through the huge difficulties that he has just as a person getting through the world, and performing Smile live for the first time in 2003, I believe it was, in London. And
Mm.
and showing that. And like Paul McCartney comes backstage beforehand, which has all kinds of resonance that I need not get into. Um, and it is such an act of love. Um,
Oh.
it's it's great. Watch it.